thing that is going to be really strong for us is going to be the fact that I can play and Tristan can play on the team.
I'm just really interested to see how they evolve in the best of 5.
Steve jumps in, but there's Chachi going to the back line, and he is just destroying everybody. Triple kill comes in for Fox. Shoots the top. Wow, gets out of it and just turns around as well with Amazing coming in. So as the cavalry has arrived.
Hello everyone and welcome to day 2 of the European LCS Spring Quarterfinals. There we see a Unicorns of Love Draven and Origen chilling by the pool. Great weather here, but they're gonna spend the day in the studio to fight for that spot in the semifinals against the Unicorns of Love. There's our crowd as well. With just one semifinal spot left, the pressure is absolutely on. Good evening everyone, I'm EpicSkillshot supporter anchoring the analyst desk, where I'm joined by Martin de Visio Lunge, Mitch Kreppel Voorspools, and the coach for Vitality, Shans. Thank you so much for joining us, Shans. Of course, we have to talk about what happened yesterday, that anticipated quarterfinal between Vitality and Fnatic, where in most people's eyes, it was quite an upset that you guys didn't manage to make it. What do you think went wrong?
I think like we had a bad understanding of how this quarterfinal would go, because often in the BO5 like you usually see one trend that goes well and everyone has to play it, and yesterday was the 1-3-1 with double TP pressure. First and second game we played with Azir, didn't go well, and then after we instantly changed, but maybe it was a bit too late. Even if things works in practice, what we learned is that some things do not work in LCS, and you have to instantly recognize it.
Yep, I think he pretty much summed it up. I think the last point is very important because you never know how something translates on stage, especially because it's in the little things. It's suddenly you're so used to playing with the same amount of vision, but your decision making is like, the jungler, especially in bot lane, like the jungler could be here, and I don't want to be the guy that gives up first spot on the stage. In scrims, it's like, nah, my gut feeling tells me he's not here, but it's just it's a difference between just making that final step, that decision, and that's the difference between one wave not being pushed out, one TP not being started a second earlier, and suddenly things start falling down.
For other teams that, of course, you guys are a new team from this split, but obviously there's a lot of different circumstances that all the players on your team are very experienced, and so are you. But what feeling are you stepping away from that first split?
All right, first thing I want to point out is that maybe we are a new team, but this is not an excuse we should hide behind, because everyone is a new team. There is no roster that was the same. Fnatic with Klai, Spirit, Gamsu, we're a new team, so I can't already hide the fact that we are like new or not. Secondly, like I think obviously we learned a lot. Also, I learned a lot like, from the playoff and stuff, and I think that for the BO2 that are coming in the summer split, I think it's a really good training for our team rather than like ending 7th or 8th. And the fact that we got 3rd at regular season shows that we are actually obviously capable of doing something good, and maybe the meta was just the wrong one in this playoff.
Does of course put a little bit of pressure on Vitality for the summer split now with a few championship points earned this split, and it is going to be important. We saw it last year how the championship points actually ended up meaning that H2K went to Worlds, even though they didn't manage to win any of the splits. So this is obviously the problem when you drop out in quarterfinals, but now you have some time to figure it out, and then of course summer split is full focus.
I mean, there will always still be the gauntlet at the end to decide the last spot for Worlds, and teams that can then show up and have versatility, flexibility, like adaptability, whatever buzzword you want to choose. That should be really interesting. I do think it's a little bit disappointing overall from Vitality, the ranking they end up on, but it's a typical story like Fnatic. Like in playoffs, we joked about it, how like, nah, it's not the team, it can't be the team, it's the players, but they somehow did it again.
But LCS are scripted, you all know this.
I mean, apparently it's now confirmed. It is confirmed.
I mean, we watched it. Fnatic ended 6, played against the third wins. TSM ended 6, played against the third win. I would confirm scripted.
All planned. If anything, it'll make the summer split super exciting as well to see what Vitality can do there. Before we get to the rest of our games here in Berlin, an update on the Turkish Champions League finals happening over in Istanbul after 3 games. Supermassive is up 2-1 and just 1 win away from securing the championship and that spot at IWCI for MSI. And Supermassive has Dumbledore on their team. He played Elise support in the series as well.
The man who killed Faker.
The man who killed Faker, that is what he will go by forever.
He must be so tired of that
Yeah.
by now. But
Every
actually,
time.
he's actually he's a good bar player. Yes, Grip was talking about Bard again, but that seems to be his senior champion in solo queue, and I think he has like potential. He still needs. I think the one thing that haunts him forever is like very narrow champion pool, but he's a good player overall.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we get to see him at MSI, of course. But here in our playoffs, Fnatic advances to next week's semifinals, where they'll face the first seed G2 Esports.
Yeah, and of course you guys have to remember we have the reseeding, so basically number 1 and 2 at the bye, straight to semifinal, and it also works this way when you're on number 1, you always face the lowest seed of the 4 quarterfinal teams who move on. In this case, it is Fnatic. It is locked in place because they were, of course, number 6 coming in. Vitality were nice enough to make Fnatic go through. So now G2 knows who they are playing. HSK will get one of the remaining teams.
Yeah, we'll fill in that final spot in the semis today as the 4th seed Origen go up against the bracket's 5th seed, the Unicorns of Love. And as soon as the score is settled here in Europe, we'll head over to Los Angeles, California for the North American LCS's second quarterfinal between Team Liquid and Energy. Because yesterday, TSM, against all odds, Bjergsen, man, your boy.
I mean, TSM played well.
Boy.
Of
Your
course,
boy.
they played well,
Yes.
and they deserve to win. I'm actually more interested in our game, though, right now with the side selections, because it's OG playing blue side on four of the games, and then Unicorns, of course, game 3 is blue side. And it was OG at side selection game 1, 3, 5, and they picked blue first and then actually picked red side for third game. Sean's, your opinion, is blue side stronger than red side right now?
Well, I would go into this way, like against Fnatic against Vitality, both teams played the blue sides. We
Yes.
got 3, they got 2. And I think that there are few things. First of all, you get the first pick, and I think in this meta, the counter pick is not even that relevant too much. Like, it's not like it's game breaking. So obviously you cannot get like really good counter pick. Also, there is something that's a bit hidden, but we need to know that in League of Legends, from like since the beginning of the game, blue side has always been like stronger than red side. And I think it's mostly because the HUD, where you play as a player, is on the bottom side of the screen, which gives you a little bit more screen in the top side of the map, which is the opposite in red side. So it helps a little bit. I don't know if it's like game breaking, but I would prefer blue side.
If we see one skill shot miss, it's the HUD, man.
We know it. We need to make a change. You have to put it on top now, so you can look down as well.
Oh, very
yeah.
interesting.
For me, I'm very fascinated, and I really hope this series goes 5 games just for the fact that Origin's playing 4 blue side games, because I really like to see pick and bans evolve, see what fails, what doesn't work. I definitely agree with the point that Sean's brought up, because we saw mid lane conventionally is the last pick on purple, but then we saw it shift to like, nah, we want to pick Azir earlier. No, we want to pick Azir earlier. Then like people started first picking Azir, and then it turns out Azir is really bad. So I want to see if mid lane goes back to the traditional counter pick, or if Lissandra kind of goes up in the rankings. Whoever locks that in with a double TP comp should be doing fine in the series, because that seems to be what it's all about today. Double teleport and then putting your AD carry in the mid lane.
I would also add that we talked about this a bit with Nasher. When we add up the blue vision on the blue side of the map, it's easier to contest. Like when you're maybe purple, you can talk about it, Crepo. But in terms of blue side, I think it's way easier to control Nash, because it's not about Dragon meta, it's more about Nasher meta.
Well, I'd love to pick that back up maybe after game 1, because we are getting close to the game. But there's a lot of brain power here, so if you guys have any of these questions for these guys, you can tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag AskTheDesk, and we will talk about all those topics a little later on. For now, though, as said, time to turn to the matchup at hand between the Unicorns of Love and Origen, our second quarterfinal. Unicorns of Love, the story of their first season last season was inconsistency all around, even though they got into the playoffs and had some good results. This year, it started off phenomenally for them, but then they gradually fell off. Of course, a lot of changes that they couldn't have foreseen with the jungle issues. Sean's, what do you make of their level now?
I think like obviously having 4 jungler in the same split when you're like a new team, because actually every player changed, like apart from Vichichachi and Elisang, I think it's really rough. And I think Diamond Prox had a really good understanding of where to be, how the meta works and stuff. And I think that maybe Rudy and Joko were like really like team performing players, like having good macro and stuff. So at the beginning, I think like Lulex was still a bit like on an individual play, not maybe at the right place, the right time. But now it comes down, I think Unicorn has understood and played correctly right now.
Yeah, it's fun with Unicorns of Love, because we have a team where before the split we weren't 100% sure what to expect. Especially I feel the carries, if you look at both mid lane and AD carry, kind of underwhelming in terms of names coming into the split, but they've been overperforming. They've been doing extremely well. Steelback was even voted as like the #1 AD carry in Europe right now by a lot of people. I guess you can argue, forgive Sven, whatever, but he was voted as #1. And also they have the backbones Oh, they have the backbone with Hylissang and
he's taking a nap right now.
Yeah, he's just totally preparing
He's,
for going in the
He heard what you
getting
said.
ready. Yeah, he's like, oh, what's going on here? High skills as well for an AD carries, it's great. But yeah, so these carries have been doing extremely well. And then again, you have Chachi and Hylissang around them, who's adding a lot of experience. They are veterans by now. And I think that has really given Unicorns Love a strong setup if you look at just the player skill. I do think macro-wise they can improve and become more consistent, because right now it's a lot about team fighting for them.
There is something that we also talked about off-air, where just the meta shift again, you know, these tanks stop playing more towards kind of team fighting. The split push is there, but it kind of only works as a purpose or a tool to then conglomerate around the mid lane and get a fight, really. I think that speaks in Unicorns' favor, because it hides some of their weaknesses. They're not the team that could 1-3-1 split push and siege for towers. Then again, at the other hand of that coin, like the Origen isn't really that team either. They had very, very weak macro play with Power of Evil. That's why, in my opinion, I hope they start or they play a lot with EpicSkillshot today, because I feel he's a better split pusher, he has a better understanding of the map.
Well, Power of Evil is starting in Game 1. We're seeing there on your screen. But obviously, the question and the storyline that was the most important for us this split is that they did seem stronger with EpicSkillshot, and they have the opportunity to swap him out in this series. But if we look at, because we have to look at a team as playing with both their subs and kind of tally up everything, we haven't seen a lot of good things from Origen this split.
No, overall, I mean, they've been underwhelming, but it's also because we judged them as a team who made top 4 worlds,
Yes.
obviously coming into this, and also they only made that one roster change, which then has become very huge for them. I think one of the reasons are that Peke is a guy who can handle himself in-game. And Power of Evil was a guy who came from Unicorns of Love, who last year really struggled when it came to shot calling and kind of understanding how to play the map. So maybe the rest of Origen were expecting to kind of plug in Power of Evil and he would know what to do on the map and be able to just play on his own. He wasn't able to do that. He's kind of been stuck in the mid lane, and they've been playing around him. And when they've then been losing side lanes because maybe Source were underperforming, it hurt Power of Evil as well. So it's more than just him playing bad. Peke obviously comes in and he just says, you know, go here, do this, I'm going to go there, I'm going to kill this guy.
I also think that there is something really important is about the communication, because XPK is known and already said it, that he's really, really talking a lot during the game, which brings like what I call light during the game, because when you're not talking, especially for your jungler, maybe your support, it gives some sort of dark moment on the map, because your mid laner, you don't know what is he doing. Is he freezing, pushing, is he low HP, does the enemy has potion, where are the wards? So when you're communicating, game is so easy, especially in mid lane, because the map is open, is light, you know everything from the mid, so you can take the best decisions. And this is what's been the struggle for Origen, maybe it's the communication.
Yeah, and also it inspires your teammates to talk. If
True.
one guy is talking, everybody else starts talking. If it goes quiet, it goes super quiet. I think it's somewhat comparable to a lesser extent from High from C9. You know, where we had that quote from Jat, like, it's not like High is going to tell Jensen, yo, body these fools, but when EpicSkillshot's on the map, it seems like everybody else has a better understanding of what's going on in the entirety of the game. Therefore, their individual decision-making goes up a little bit. We have to see if they've worked on that, because they could have easily fixed that problem with Power of Evil in the mid lane as well.
Yeah, and we will see, because the players are ready. The stage is set. It's time to head inside the arena for Game 1. And on the way, we'll hear what EpicSkillshot thinks of his team heading into their first best of series of 2016.
I have no idea how is it gonna be to play on a best of 5 right now. I know last year we were really confident in a best of 5 because we played really good around the meta, and at the same time we were able to adapt after a loss really fast. This year we haven't played any best of 5 yet, and I haven't played with the team that much, but the thing that is gonna be really strong for us is gonna be the fact that I can play and Tristan can play on the team. It's gonna allow us to change drastically the strategy from one game to another, and I think that is something that can be a real strength for us, but we haven't been able to really practice it yet on stage.
We'll find out how